I see some comments. Some people are coming in. Hello, everyone. I hope we're all well.
Hi,
28 people.
everybody.
Give it a couple of seconds before we kick right off. Hello. I see some familiar names, some non-familiar names, maybe familiar to you, Sarah Kate.
Yes, yeah, good to see people arriving.
We've got potentially quite a busy webinar today.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of last-minute sign-ups as well this morning.
Yeah. No pressure, no pressure. Oh, it's nice seeing a wall of hellos.
Where are people dialing in from? People want to add that to the chat, feel free.
And that can be home or office, or can be a county or a town. London, we love London. Istanbul, love it. We're international. Inverness, Edinburgh. Anyone from Glasgow? That's where my side's from. Hampshire. Well, Liverpool. We've
Oh,
got some
well-traveled
Northerners in
clinics.
here. I love that.
Welcome.
Wilderness Triangle. I don't know where that is. My geography needs to be updated, but I will look after that off the call.
Will we kick off, Tamsin?
I'm happy to kick off if you are.
Let's go.
This session is recorded, so we will share this with you for those attendees, but also for those who weren't able to attend, who are maybe in your team, we can also share this with them. So a very good and warm welcome to everyone this afternoon. This is our webinar on the Meddbase Form Builder, looking at clinical data capture and design. Going on to our agenda, we're going to have an introduction, as you may not have met myself or Sarah Kate before. And then we will have an overview of the form builder, get you engaged, ask some questions, look at your current challenges and look how we can solve them. Then we'll be looking at use cases, so our client success stories that both Sarah Kate and myself have been working with many clients so far. And then we'll have a live demonstration where Sarah Kate and I will be putting our 2 pence in and coming up with new things that we learned along the way. And then lastly, open the floor up to you folks for any questions that you have. Please, I really am a big fan of engagement, so ask questions throughout the webinar and we will answer them at the end. And it may be a case where you ask your question at the very, very start and we answer it halfway through. That's more than fine. But any questions you have, please do fire away. So let's introduce ourselves. So over to you, Sarah Kate.
Thanks, Tamsin. So my name is Sarah Kate. I've been with Meddbase for the last 3.5 years. Started off as a junior PM, then becoming an implementation PM, and now currently I'm a client success team lead. I've worked across small, medium, and large clients, occupational health, and private practice. Currently been using the builder for the last couple of months, and I'm really excited to introduce it to you today. Tamsin, I'll hand it back to you.
Brilliant, thank you. So hi everyone, I'm Tamsin. I am the application training manager here at Meddbase. I am familiar with some of you folk in the chat, but others not so much. So hopefully you'll see me very soon. I have a pretty extensive background in all things related to technology, so computer science, sound engineering, and have experience as an educator. So I do have a deep understanding of not only digital technology, but the pedagogy around it. And I really enjoy breaking down complex technical processes and concepts into non-technical audiences. So if any of you have been in my training sessions before, you'll know my analogies. I have been working with the development team on this form builder since the start of the year, sort of become a subject matter expert and picking up things along the way, bridging that gap between yourselves as the end user and the development team. So what does the end user want to know and what can they do and how can we make this the best that it can be? So back over to Sarah Kate. We're going to have some interaction now.
Perfect, yeah. So to start you off, we've a bit of engagement. If you want to take out your phones and scan this QR code and enter in the number, we have a few questions that we're going to ask and that you can answer. And just to note that the answers are anonymous. And our lovely colleague who's behind the scenes, Bushra, is going to go through the questions on the screen.
Also, if you go in via the link, slido.com, it's hard to find, but it's at the very top of the toolbar, just below the toolbar, where you could put the code in there if you're not doing the QR code. Well, hopefully get some people. And we've got 60 people now.
Okay, hopefully everybody's had a chance to sign up. Maybe we'll go to the first question. Okay, so first question here is, how crucial are clinical forms to the efficiency of your services? So if you want to tap into your phone, very important, somewhat important, or not very important.
I think the question may have bugged out. If you can't answer on that, if you type into the comments here, we can view them there. So how efficient are they? Stays voting close to me. Yeah, I think it seems to have bugged out. I can see it on our screen.
Okay,
Let's see.
voting is
Whilst,
closed.
whilst
Okay,
our support
well,
in the background, tell
yeah,
us in the comments.
very important.
Very, very.
Yes,
I'll take that one.
perfect. So from my experience at working clients, clinical forms are extremely important. Oh, here we go. Here's some answers.
That is for
Working
the second
brilliant.
question.
Oh, the second question.
Yeah, I'll take that
Okay,
one.
fine. So anyways, just to continue on the efficiency, clinical forms can have different answer boxes or question types. They can be drop down, they can be drop down menus, check boxes, multiple choice, or tables. And these all help with the efficiency of the clinician going through the appointment and being able to answer things efficiently. Perfect. Tamsin, over to you.
Yeah. Just one thing off the back of that, I know one of the clients I've been working with is they want to limit the amount of time a consultant actually has to spend typing. So they use a lot of our predefined options of the drop downs and radio buttons and the information to give them a guide and push them along. On to our second question. So how often, I can already see some answers, which was fantastic. How often do you find yourself requiring a new form to meet your changing clinical needs? So very almost never, no one says that. We'll always want to change, we always want to grow. Someone's coming sneakily there, but it's occasionally, like every quarter, you'll usually have an assess and be like, right, okay, what new form could we need? One particular thing is you may have a new service that you provide where you will need a new clinical form to complete that appointment. And for those who maybe haven't been with Meddbase before and this is your first interaction with us, a clinical form is something that we use within an appointment for the medical attendee to take clinical notes and for them to be saved to the patient record and filtered to certain sections of the medical record. So these forms help us map and update and be relevant to the appointment. So fantastic, I can see every quarter. So I'm going to class that as often. Our next question, if we move along, what is your typical wait time for creating and implementing a new form? Now, I know, Sarah Kate, you have a lot of experience within this area, been working with new clients.
Yeah, exactly. So it can kind of range, but also our audience today is a range of our current clients and also maybe clients not using Meddbase. So very interested to get feedback from our audience today on this one.
So we'll have clients who are still in the implementation phase, to clients who have been with us for years and still ask for requests. And we can see Mark has never created one. Well, after today's session, you'll be able to. So we can see usually more than months. That's quite a long time. So if you're wanting to implement a service, you've already done all of the market research, find out, yes, we definitely want to offer this as a service. You then will have to wait for that new form. And there may be a lot of back and forth of, well, you have to fill out, I know, Sarah Kate, they have to fill out an Excel spreadsheet
Yeah.
and what the different controls are. And it's hard to actually visualize what that might be. Then we'll create for you, we'll send it over to you, you want changes, we make those changes, and there's a lot of back and forth, so there can be a long time for that, so more than a month. Okay, I can say Steve and Josh have never created one before. I'm so excited for you to sink your teeth into this. So let's move on to the next question. What is our next question? This is more so for existing clinical forms, how frequently do you find yourself needing to modify them? So, how often do you need to make changes to these forms? So, say spellings, or there's new processes or governance around it. I know particularly this is one client who I work with every, like, I'd say every quarter, they come up saying, "We're offering this new section as part of this consultation. Can we have this added in? Can we have a text box added in? Can we update the spelling? Can we change the wording? We want to change the title." So quarterly, some are weekly, some are monthly. For those who have raised support, you'll probably see my name appear, and I've probably helped support these. Very exciting. Lovely. So quarterly. All right. Interesting. So on to our last question. Weekly, as they are very new. Oh, I'm exciting. I'm excited, Tammy. Can't wait to show you this.
Okay, so our last question today is, do you currently track or report on any specific fields within your clinical form? Great, yes, regularly, 100%.
No, but
Yeah,
planning to.
planning to. It's great to get this feedback today. So I usually see this with both types of our clients. So occupational health usually track clinical form fields for case management and capturing outcomes, i.e. fitness for work. Practice management usually report on diagnosis codes, but of course it is interchangeable. If you would like some help setting up this, please contact our support desk or get in touch with your implementation manager. We're here to help with this, as I can see that some people are doing it and some people are planning to do it. So we want to get everybody doing it. So please let us know. We'll give you a hand.
Yeah, this is definitely something raised when I'm doing report query training.
Hmm.
A lot of clients are like, "This is fantastic. How do I report on my clinical forms?" And the answers provided, and especially for mental health, I remember it was the numerical values based on the questions. And beforehand, it had to be, okay, well, you need to raise a support ticket, and that'll get escalated to solution engineers. You would then work with solution engineers. Then you would get the relevant codes, and we would build the report for you. So you'd still have that time frame. Whereas now, I can train you how to do it as well in our sessions
Nearly instantly.
nearly instantly. Um,
Okay.
Brilliant.
That's
Over
the
to
end
you.
of our questions. Thanks, Busha, for your help. We can go on to the next slide, which is around challenges. So I'm going to just discuss and present a few challenges that we see in the industry with regards to collecting clinical data and managing it. And then Tamsin is going to kind of talk about the benefits and the solutions that our new clinical form builder is going to bring to these challenges and hopefully solutionize them for you. So first one here is around efficient data collection. So according to our research, 15 to 30% of healthcare is spent on administrative complexities, including data capture. These inefficiencies can obviously lead to slower patient processing, increased wait times, and potential discrepancies. So something that everybody here, I think, wants to avoid. Another challenge in this is around lack of customization on clinical forms. A lot of times we hear from clients moving from other system, maybe they had standard forms, they prevented a lot of healthcare's providers from capturing crucial information. They come over to Meddbase, they're able to customize their forms, make them bespoke to themselves. Another challenge is around delayed updates and revisions to clinical forms. So like the question we asked before, how long do updates take? How do you go about it? A lot of the times, our clients have to keep up with new medical guidelines, and delays in updating forms can obviously lead to non-compliance issues, penalties, and maybe compromising on patient care. So it's something that we're working to help our clients avoid these things. And the last one here is data error rates, which I'm sure nobody wants, but again, statistics do show that there's errors in maybe 10% of electronic health records. Again, using clinical forms in Meddbase can help minimize this error rate. Okay, so Tams, I'll pass it back over to you.
Brilliant. And just one thing off the back of that delayed update. So obviously we have clients across we're global, and there's different rules and regulations that are constantly being updated, not just only in the UK. So that also helps you if you're a client who's want to branch out and go international. you can update your clinical forms as and when with our new solution, which is the Meddbase Form Builder. This is because it is now the power's in your hands. It's your form, and it's going to be your rules now. And some of my favorite quotes that we've had so far is this
Tamsin,
is
that's a
revolutionary.
great quote already.
That is, I love it.
Sorry. Yeah.
This is revolutionary. So this is something that we've heard quite a lot in Sarah Kate. This is directly from your clients,
Yeah.
and one that I heard recently and was like, yes, that's what we want to hear. Is that it offers immense scalability for yourselves. So as I mentioned before, that international level, you can now have clinical forms for each of your sites. As you grow, we want to grow with you. That is why we have this collaboration. That is a big part of Meddbase, is growing with you. So very excited. And now let's talk about some what actually are the advantages. So we've talked a lot about it, but you may not have seen it. You may not even know what it is. That's what we'll be going over soon when you'll see it live. But before then, I just want you to think about these advantages and remember them when we go over the demo. So the main part is independence. It's to give you the baton now to create your own forms on your own terms and on the fly. You see real-time previews, so you can actually see your forms as you're creating them and visualize and map out rather than having that spreadsheet, Sarah Kate, as I know that's been a pain point for you. Um, and it can ensure accuracy before finalizing, before it avoids that back and forth of, well, I want it to look this way, I want the box to be this wide, I want this to be the text. It's now you can have that creation. Data driven, so design these intuitive, effective forms that are promote comprehensive and precise data collection. So make your forms engage and using our tools. There are so many ways we can do this. And lastly, my favorite part. So I've just touched on my few favorites, but my most favorite is the built-in error detection. So you can rely on us. You can rely on the intuitive interface with automatic error checks. So it checks if you've missed something out. It checks if you've said one thing but done the other. So when you can have confidence in yourself that when you're building your form, it is correct, it is as expected, it is behaving as expected. That's not to say we won't have a little check over, just if you want that reassurance, we definitely will. But otherwise, it's a whole package for you to create with confidence, and then you just give it to us to upload into your chamber, ready to use. So on to our next slide, one of our client success stories. So Sarah Kate, this is one of your clients, I believe.
Yes, it is. So recently I've worked with this large occupational health client, and I have introduced the clinical form builder to them. Beforehand, as a lot of you would have known, we would have asked for Excel sheets or documents for your requirements on clinical forms. And then we would take them on, and then we would kind of interpret it and then create a form out of this. And we'd give it to you, you would test it, and then there might be a few tweaks. We'd go back to Meddbase on our side, make the tweaks, and show you again. Whereas now with the clinical form builder, there is no need for that. Um, I, with the client, can in real time create the clinical form, and as we're creating it, the client can see it, which is absolutely revolutionary, to use that word again. One of the best things about this I found with the client is testing different field types. Usually you might not know, do you want a table? Do you want a drop-down list? Do you want a checkbox? Do you want a free text field? With this clinical form builder, it's going to give you the opportunity to test. You can have one question and you can have 5 different types of answer boxes. See which one works for you, delete the ones you don't want. It's just great to see it in real time rather than sending it to us and waiting for it to be created. Again, off that speed of creation, it's nearly halved, if not more. Myself and Tamsin, we've built some clinical forms before, and I'm sure there's a lot more on this call who've built in Meddbase more than ourselves, but it's probably taken a couple hours. Now with the new copy and paste feature as well within the clinical form builder that Tamsin's going to show later, it's just going to be becoming more efficient and time saving for yourselves. And I also learned last night from Tamsin is that you can copy and paste multiple questions. A lot of the times when I get a clinical form from a client, there's quite a lot of questions and a lot of them might have the same format. So this way you just copy and paste, then type in the wording for the question. Which was also very important. Another thing important to this client was, as their OH, is their outcome documents, their fitness for work and their letters. They were able to make their their clinical forms bespoke to themselves. So the clinician could write into the clinical form, type in or dictate, and then later, maybe a day later, hour later, a week later, they could then generate their fitness certificate or their letter straight from the clinical form. They wouldn't have to write in or retype their notes, which is absolutely brilliant. At the moment, I have 4 clients using the clinical form builder, and once they've used it once, they are absolutely hooked.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely been in some
Mhm.
background calls with Sarah Kate and these
Yeah,
clients.
helping me a lot.
Just like being a fly on the wall and seeing Sarah Kate will show them once, and the next thing you know, I've got 10 different support tickets asking, can I have this uploaded to my chamber? And they're very, very good clinical forms. So one of my clients that I've been working with, and this client was someone that we worked early on with the form builder. So they've seen this from its initial conception up to now where we have the questionnaire builder. That is a new addition. So this particular client is also occupational health, but the form builder works across all forms of healthcare. This is a mid-sized occupational health client. They've got about 30 seats. Their biggest challenge was that they are constantly changing. They are constantly needing to adapt to meet new trends and regulatory guidelines. But their biggest issue was they felt very static with their clinical forms. They weren't sure if they could make any requests for any changes. They weren't sure if they were able or how long the wait time would be if they could just reorder the structure of their clinical forms. And that meant the inflexibility of their clinical form could have resulted in that essential data not being captured and instead being captured in the wrong place, which is what we don't want. So by working with this client and introducing the Meddbase form builder, I showed them once and they ran with the form builder and they were able to independently create and customize their new clinical forms and existing clinical forms and even new questionnaires that I didn't even show them how to do, but it was because the system is so intuitive, they were able to pick it up as they went along. And now their active clinical forms are able to be updated as and when they need them to, depend on their needs. And this also means that they can make their forms more interactive. And I'm so big, I mean, Meddbase we are also big on that culture of continuous improvement, so 1% every day. And they're able to continuously improve their data management practices and enable staff to adapt to these tools without needing Meddbase to come in and update these forms for them and have that long wait time. They're able to, say, me every quarter, decide this is what we want changed. Okay, someone from the IT team, can you go in and build this form with our clinicians? And it's created for them. So this has been really exciting working with this client and being able to see them to grow and be so confident that they can go away and learn a new feature that I hadn't even taught them yet. And now they're my go-to for any workflows. I've learned a few things off this client about ways that they've used the form builder. So really, really, a really great success. And now you're probably all waiting on the edge of your seats to actually see what it looks like and have the demo. Well, fear not. So we do have a demo guiding you through, and it is going to be creating an existing form. It's not going to be showing you each individual control. We have a range of knowledge base articles that are quite in detailed, and we can also do individual sessions, and there is soon to be a video tutorial coming out. But just before we begin, this is the consultation form we'll be creating. So we can see we've got services to provide, we've got some consultation notes, some meta fields. So examples of meta fields are BMI, height, weight, for those who already have it in their chamber. Then we have a section for diagnosis notes and then some actions which will trigger some workflows within Meddbase. So when we first begin, I'm just going to bring up our video. Added to. Brilliant. So when you first load up the builder, you'll be presented with a tool wizard, as I like to call it. And this guides you through all of the individual steps within the builder. There's some hints and tips along the way about control and multi-select, which is what Sarah Kate and I were working on last night. And we can see definitions of specific areas. And you can navigate through with next and previous. I do recommend going through this the first time that you access the form builder. I still use it to this day if I can't remember what the name of a certain section is. and it guides you and keeps you right as you go along. So we've really made sure to take care of you to make this an independent thing for you to carry on with.
I
And
think Tamsin, I was a bit guilty of maybe skipping this, and then I had
yeah,
to come back, and I got so many more or efficiencies from you after you telling me how to use it. So I wish I just
exactly.
read them in the first place.
Exactly. And you can open and close at any time. So let's add our first control. So we're going to add inside and we can see this pop-up window of all the controls available. We have question controls and organizational controls. And on the right-hand side, we'll see a definition of the control. We can see a preview and some settings. Now I'm going to add a group, and groups are organizational controls. So I can organize one or more related questions into one area. And this is going to be provided services. I've changed the label, and then automatically we can see provided services has popped up in the preview. I'm going to add inside of this group. And the next control I want to add inside of this group is provided services. Now, there's no settings for this because it's pulled straight from Meddbase. So whatever services or appointments you have will automatically list here. By default, GP appointment is shown, to just give you that example. And I'm just continuing to add after this group. So I want to add practice what I preach, always add your questions inside of a group. And this is going to be holding questions relating to the consultation. So I'm going to call it consultation. And I've given it a tag of consultation so I can filter. I'm going to add inside, and the next control I want to add is notes. So this notes control allows me to record long observations that may need to span more than one line. And this is where I could use dictation. This is where the clinician notes would go. And you see, I am interacting with the preview. My label is, I'm going to call it consultation notes. I can provide a code and a key. So that's what I can run reports on. Also, if you use SNOMED concept IDs, we can use those here. I can make it a global question so that this answer is shown up in other episodes and make it required, and also set the width. Click add. Lovely. Now, my next control is to add some information. So let me go back and deselect. I'm going to add another information. So if I scroll down, click information, this is just where we can make our clinical forms engaging to the medical attendee who's completing it. So just type some information to keep them right. This is where you could use the Data Protection Act or the Mental Health Act to ensure that your clinicians do remember and have a guidance as they're answering this.
Yeah, this one is a feature that we're seeing a lot more people using, kind of nearly acting as a script or like a
Mm.
semi-structured interview. It's giving the clinician a little bit more information, maybe a bit of context when they're asking the question. Tamsin, sorry, did you mention about maybe also if you have to read out employment acts or data
Mhm.
protection so you can have the verbatim?
Yeah, definitely there. And that's something that I've seen within occupational health is does the patient have any identifiable characteristics under the Equality Act or Mental Health Act, and we can have a tick box to say yes, we have read this to the patient, so you're making them accountable. One thing that I just want to pause the video on from here is what this is the start of the workflow. So for those who noticed it, I clicked on a control, I pressed the scissor icon, and that cuts it. So it means it copies it to my clipboard and removes it from my view. And now I'm going to paste it into a different location. So I'm restructuring on the fly. So if I just play from here, you can see I'm going to click paste before, and I've restructured it from here. I can also copy entire groups. So I really like the layout of this consultation group. And I want to say copy it again. I can click group. Actually, what I'm going to do here is my action buttons. I'm going to create my actions. So with my buttons, we can give it a label, which we'll see will update in real time. And I'm going to call this prescribe. And then we see actions, and this is a list of predefined actions. And if you hover over, it gives you a description of what the function does. Now, these will trigger workflows within Meddbase. You probably have already seen them before. I know discharge is a one that is in a lot of clinical forms. And I add that in, and I've got a prescribe button. I'm going to add another button, and this is going to be for referring a patient. I'm going to make the action refer and call it refer patient, so it does what it says on the tin. Now I'm going to do another quick workflow. I'm holding down control and clicking the two controls that I want to copy. I'm going to go at the top bar, press copy. Now these two controls have been added to my paste bucket, going to paste after, and now I've duplicated. So there's a quicker workflow rather than adding each button every single time. All I'm doing is copy and pasting and changing a few things. Change that one to discharge. I'm going to change this one to assign a task, and easily done. Now, I'm going to copy one of my groups, paste after, and I want this to be about diagnosis. So it's just giving me an error, and it says you need to have a unique label or a key. So it's saying you can't duplicate things. So I've got that error detection. And I'm just going to change this to diagnosis. And the real-time preview is updating the background. And I've still got that guidance as I go along. And I'm making this totally independently. And I'm just going to delete this patient data field as I don't need the duplication. So I've removed it. Now I'm happy with this. I've got my diagnosis. I've got my notes box for my diagnosis. What I'm going to do now is I've assessed. I'm going to add further controls if I scroll down. This is one of my radio buttons, and this is what we can have predefined answers on. So this is going to be patient pain scale. So during the consultation section, I want the doctor to ask the patient what their patient pain scale is. I'm going to make this a required question, and I'm going to set my options. So is the pain scale 1? Is it a 2? Is it a 3? And I'm adding all my options every time. So I'm adding a label for my option and a code so I can report on it, or I can be a Snowman CT code. And I'm adding those. And we can see this update in real time. Now it's bringing up an error, and that error is telling me you said this question's required, but you're not enforcing it. You're not doing anything to enforce it. So what I will do is go to my buttons, and where it says required questions, we can see, I've got it up a little bit bigger, required questions, I have ignore, warn, and strict. And if I hover over, it tells me what that means. So strict will not allow the clinician to continue on with that action until they answer that question. Warn will just bring up a window, but still allow them to proceed. So this is where you can really control what your clinicians leave out or what they must answer before they can either discharge a patient, do a prescription task, assign a task to someone else, or print from a template. We can also use print from a template to use parameters. So we can say what exact template we want to use. This is a brand new feature as well. And then to come back to workflows, I want to reorder. So this is why I love using groups. I can reorder my questions in the groups by clicking and dragging. And we can see this update in the background in the preview panel. And all I do is click cross to just confirm. I can reorder groups, tables, panels, and the actual form itself. So if I click reorder inside, this is where I can see the benefit of the groups. So I could have had 60 questions and that would be 60 individual elements. But because I've used groups, it's only 5 groups that I need to reorder. So once I've had a little look through, I like my order, I like the preview. My next step would be to save this as a file under appropriate name. So this would be simple consultation form. Save it to my computer. And then what I would do is raise a support ticket. And in the support ticket, explain, hi, I've created this clinical form. This is the name. I've attached it to this ticket. I would like you to upload this to my chamber, please. And what we would do, well, solution engineers and support would do, is have a check over. We would take your form and put it back into this builder to check the layout, to check there's no errors. And then once it all looks good and there's no errors, we will then upload that into your chamber ready for you. So that those weeks long back and forth of how it looks, no, I want it changed, I want this, no, I don't mean that. You can now do it yourself and see, I like the structure. We could also, if you really wanted to share this with other people, you could print a version of this, save it as a PDF, email it around, get people's ideas and suggestions. And what I find is really powerful about the clinical form builder is you can have multiple instances open. So we can, by that, I mean multiple tabs. I know Sarah Kate and I, we both had this up on our screens, on one side we've had a clinical form that we really like, on the other side we have a new clinical form that we're building from scratch, and we're just adapting and changing on each one. You can have multiple clinical forms and editing clinical forms at any one time. And
Tamsin,
also,
I'm just gonna, sorry, there's been some questions in the chat around where
brilliant.
to find the link.
Mhm.
Currently, the link is not in people's chambers. It is in an article on our Zendesk that we will share after this call.
Mm,
Okay.
thank you. It is separate to, it is outside of your chamber because you can make them endlessly. That's why. So otherwise, because otherwise you'll get a bit too confused if it's still in your chamber. You might be thinking, "Oh, I'm editing this version that's currently live." It's a separate thing, just to make sure you've got one dedicated area to that. And were there any other questions? I realize
There
I'm.
was also a good question, I think you're coming up to it next, is how
Mm.
do they update existing forms and can they
So,
update
mhm.
existing forms?
So specifically clinical forms, what you would do is on the top toolbar, you'll see it says open. And what you would need to, the process is they would make a request to your customer account manager or to your project manager and ask them for your clinical form that you would like to update. They will give you it as a file. Then you would take that file, open it in the form builder, and it would load just like this. And you can add and change spellings from those. And then you just save them, and you can save it under the same name, because I know one pain point for one of our clients was they had v 10 versions of the same form, and it was v1, v2, v3, v4. What we can do now is remove that and just update the existing form through the code for you. So
On that
Amy,
as
that
well,
may answer your
Amy,
question.
yes, as well, just to add to that is when, Amy, when you create your form, you can save that onto your PC, the XML, the coding, and then you will always have that version then saved to your PC. So if you have version 1, you send it to us, we upload it to your chamber, and then a month's time you have version 2. We upload version 2 to your chamber, but you actually want to go back to version 1. If you have the XML for version 1 saved on your desktop or on your computer, we'll be able to revert it back to that. Or you could create multiple clinical forms with different versions, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend that.
It does make it long.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the form builder can be used to create new clinical forms and new questionnaires, or currently update existing clinical forms. And with your current clinical forms, one thing I know, there was one client, they just wanted to add a text box at the very, very bottom, and give it a different name. Another client just wanted to change the name of a form. Another client wanted to fix a spelling mistake, because they're getting a lot of complaints from their consultants. And you can do this so quickly and so easily. You just need to ask. Yes, sorry, Fran, I just saw your message there. Sarah Kate, can you also see that on your side?
Yes, remains in your chamber, so clinician continue to use it. So if you so if you have a form version 1 and you update it, old forms will stay with the old version. Anytime you access the new form, it will be the new version.
So
Okay.
yeah, it won't update existing appointments which have already had those, so it won't mess with those. And Neil,
Mhm.
I see your questions. So questionnaire builder is currently only to create new questionnaires, not to update existing questionnaires. Just want to clarify that. But that is something that we're working on. So the clinical form builder side of the form builder has been out for a while, and we've trialed that a lot with clients. The questionnaire builder is still quite new, and we are working on that. So that's why we say questionnaires, create them new from scratch. With clinical forms, you can update existing and also create new ones. So if we can go back to our presentation to open up the stage. Ooh, to open the stage for any further questions. So now it is your time. So I'm just going to go back through the chat to see if there were any questions that were asked.
It'd be great to know how people are feeling. Like, is this going to help you? Are you excited to be able to create your own clinical forms? I know a lot of you have been asking for this for a while. It'd be great to know if anybody has any feedback as well. That last question from Neil kind of touched. He was talking about, can the questionnaire builder create referral forms? I think it can, Tamsin, can't it? It also works for referral
Believe so.
forms. Just Neil, when you send us over the questionnaire XML, you would just need to tell us that it is a referral form for the portal.
There's no other questions. What I can also do is share the link on the chat for you. I always have this bookmarked. So I've just shared the link to the form builder. Ari.
Fran, you have a question there around the coding for the reporting. So as Tamsin showed, you won't really be involved in too much coding. You will be building it using the builder. Only when you save it, you'll have to save the code. What you can do is reach out to ourselves, maybe your account manager or support, and we can give you a session on how to set one up, save it, and then how to send it across to us. But don't worry, nobody will need to be writing any code.
Yeah, no one will be writing any code. This is why it's being removed for you. I found enough have a background of coding, but this I went in blind, had no experience, and now I'm basically a subject matter expert on it. And so Sharon, the video will be available at the end of the session. We do have knowledge-based articles, but the best way to get stuck in with a form builder is just to access the link and play around. Because it's not within your chamber, because it's an external link, very unlikely you're going to break anything in it. Don't try though. But please do experiment with creating new clinical forms and then editing those and creating new questionnaires. Let me look. So we have a few other questions coming in. Let me just go to
Zoe has a question. Can you still pull data from the clinical form and input in template? Yes, same functionality is still there. And it's going to be faster because on the clinical form builder, you will get to see or add the code, the template code that you need to pull into the document. So instead of coming to us to ask for that, you'll be able to see that straight away, which will be fantastic.
And one thing that I saw from Mark is a chamber. So a chamber is your version of Meddbase. It is your hub. It is your company's version of Meddbase where you'll take appointments, do bookings and accounts and so forth from there. Then we can see one from Josie. I'm just going to put this on the screen so I can read. Oh, RE questionnaires in the future, we gather a lot of data from our patient questionnaires. If we have to create questionnaires from scratch, how we combine the data, will it be easy enough? So this will be new questionnaires. So it will be in the same process that you do. The only difference is now we've given you the capability to create your questionnaires rather than you raising requests and having that back and forth from there and being quite limited with that aspect. Then we can see Tammy. I feel like I have to speak. Feeling like I have to speak a whole new language. Exactly, you can show them what you mean, and I do feel like it's quite hard for a client when say you're the person who interacts with us, you're our CRN, and then you have to go explain that to your team, going, well, we have radio buttons and we have list boxes and we have SNOMED. You can now show them what you mean, so that's really exciting.
We have a
And
question just in from Tom O'Connell. Can it be used to create internal staff only clinical forms such as a template, say a document and a clinical consultation about stress? So this is not for internal, it's for during your appointment, the clinical form that the clinician fills in when they're having an appointment with a patient or an employee. If you want to edit your templates or your documents, that would be something else. If you want to reach out to us, we can speak more about this offline.
I can see a question from Neil, this one here. Have we got to the point where questionnaires, referral forms can be used to pre-fill clinical forms? So at the moment, referral forms is separate to being able to pre-fill clinical forms. That is something that is still being discussed at the moment. This is separate to that. That's okay, Tom. Don't apologize.
Yeah,
The
great
more
question.
users that we have, that makes it great for me. So for those who are occupational health and what Neil's discussing, this is something that has been raised and we're still looking into. So what I'd say with the questionnaires is it's questionnaires for the patient to complete prior to the appointment. I've even seen a client, I can't remember if this was with you, Sarah Kate, but do you remember I showed you a client did a feedback
Yeah,
questionnaire?
very
And I
popular.
saw that and I was like, I'm stealing that idea. I feel
Yeah.
like that is someone who's attending the session today. I've seen that recently. Um, Zoe, can you link to specific appointment types or select different clinical forms once in a consultation? Yes, so how Meddbase works is you will have, as Sarah Kate mentioned, clinical forms are only accessible within a consultation. So usually when you create your appointment types, you would select which clinical form you would like to be associated with that and which must be completed during that consultation. And then depending on your uh, I guess, agreement and plan is if you have different clinical forms, you can then open them from within a consultation. And you could say I have two clinical forms within the consultation. And I see a question from Nemo, so referral managers to complete, but then we can quote the referral manager's submission in the notes. That would be something that we'd have to, I believe that's still part of the first thing to raise from there, but it's definitely something that we are looking into, as I have heard that quite a lot before. A question from Louise.
Are all the forms always linked to an appointment type? So under appointment admin, you can link one clinical form to one appointment type. So that's the default one. But then when you go into the appointment, that'll be the default form that appears. But as Tamsin said, you can also access additional forms. So often we'd see clients have a clinical form called consultation. That's going to be the default clinical form. But if I want to have a HABS questionnaire or a GADS, I can open up another form. And then the second form will open, and then I can type in my answers to the secondary clinical form.
And then see a question from KO. So what's the best for receptionists to fill in? This is separate. So your question is in relation to booking questionnaires, which is a new feature that we rolled out last month. These clinical forms, these forms are for either during a consultation or typically within the patient portal or referral portal.
And I think Chris has asked a great. Do you want to give the good news, Tamsin, for that one?
Yeah, it is live.
It is.
You can use it when you get the post-webinar email. You will get the resources for the knowledge base articles on how to create and how to use the questionnaire builder and the clinical form builder, and you will also get the link to do so. And it is live and ready to use now, so we really encourage you to use them. And yep, you can make your forms and then send them to support to have a little, we can have a little look through and then upload them for you. So go ahead, I've sent the link to you, you'll also get the link again and start experimenting.
And Louise's question there, can you link a clinical form to a task? More the opposite way around, you can link a task to a clinical form. Okay, so just remember, clinical forms are only accessible in an appointment.
It's where you take your clinical notes. So for example, I know clients who come to us previously, their old processes were typing up in a Word document and then printing off that Word document and put it in a patient's file directly. What a clinical form allows you to do is within the consultation in Meddbase, in your chamber, you can type your notes as you go on all the different fields. You can use dictation, and that will save to that specific appointment, to that patient, and to their medical history all at the same time. And
Okay,
then
I'm loving all the questions. This is great. Is it possible to report and compare data on different clinical forms? Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah. See a question from Sharon.
At the moment, it is not a chargeable feature because we're trialing it. Let's have a look, Mark. So after we have put the data in, how do we get it out again? Do we get a spreadsheet download option? So once you input it into the clinical form, it saves automatically. It's there on the patient's record, can be extracted for if you have a SAR or if they want a copy of their medical history. If you want to report on it using our report server, you could go in and make a report that says, I want all the patients with this diagnosis and what the answer to this field on the specific clinical form is, and you can then download that into a spreadsheet if needed. any signature field for questionnaire at the moment? No, not electronic signature. We do the signature where you can just type in the name, and upload field for photos and documents. Interesting question. Not really to do with the clinical form, but we do have that ability on the OH portal and the patient portal for people to upload photos and documents. So I recommend, Neil, for you to maybe contact support or your account manager, and they'll be able to help you with that. And no worry, Sharon, we knew you weren't shouting.
Yeah,
It was
no.
an exciting question to ask.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that's what we want to know. But please do experiment with the form builder. We have played around with it for a while, so we're very comfortable. And as I mentioned before, there was a particular client who I'd only trained on the clinical form builder. There was only a knowledge base article about the clinical form builder at the time because the questionnaire hadn't come out. And then I got a support ticket saying, "We've made a questionnaire, please can you have a look?" And I was overjoyed. We as a whole team was celebrating because they used their intuition, they used what they knew, and it showed us that it's a great product and it's working. So that was really exciting. I can see a
Okay, Emily
question.
has one there. If you want to duplicate a clinical form field that already exists, can you add them to a brand new clinical form? Do you just it depends. It depends on what you want. When you first try the clinical form builder, you'll get to know what's kind of the most efficient way. You can get the existing clinical form and delete all the fields you don't want. Or you can you can't copy. I don't think, Tamsin, you can't copy from one to another,
Not
just
yet.
in the
That
in the
is
one, not yet, yeah,
coming.
in the
Yeah.
one instance. So yeah,
Yeah.
get your existing clinical form, delete everything you don't need, or on the existing clinical form, you can duplicate them.
Yeah. And just one thing is, I know Sarah Kate, we were working on this. We want to have the same label because we had comments. And what we could do is create a unique identifier by giving them a key so we could then report on each of those individual comments. So you have a lot of flexibility. And
Oh, I think we have just lost Tamsin. Maybe her battery has died. Is any more questions? Zoe, sorry, I can't answer that at this moment, but I'm sure we follow with more information in time. If there's no more questions, I will end the stream and I will go check on Tamsin. We will send out a recording and some links. Um, Thank you so much for your time today. We will chat to you in a little bit. Bye.